Yes.
And even when you're the poorest, she makes the argument, that's when abundance can come into your life, when you start to realize you cannot hold on to money.
Real Estate Investing Profits presents Profit Masters with your host, world-renowned real estate coach and investor, Corey Boatwright. Now, strap in and get ready to learn elite wealth-building investment strategies taught by 6- and 7-figure house flipping masters as they reveal their best real estate investing profit secrets to you right now.
What is going on, my potty people? This is Corey Boatwright. I am your host of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters and the founder of Real Estate Investing Profit Masters. And I'm excited about being on another show with you. Now today, we have Mr. Clayton Morris. And if you haven't heard about Morris Invest, you should definitely check out what he's doing. Clayton is somebody that was referred to me by Tom Kroll. And Tom and him have been working together for, I guess, quite a while now. And Clayton, you might have heard of his name because he was on Fox and Friends. Yeah, he was on there for many, many years. And in fact, at one point, he was actually named New York's funniest journalist on Fox and Friends. And that was, I think, back in 2008. But in, I believe, around September or so of 2017, he ended up leaving Fox and Friends and investing full time. And now he has a really slick operation set up where basically you get on a call with him, you get a consultation going, and then he selects a property. They find a property for you that would match where you want to do some investing, and they have a great rental market that they have available for you. And then they do the rest. They handle everything turnkey. It's really cool. So I think you're going to enjoy this episode. We actually had a little bit of a challenge, so we had to splice two videos together. So I hope that doesn't bother you too much here, but we make it work. You know how we do. By the way, if you haven't already downloaded your Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, why haven't you done that? Huh? Why? Bad. You should absolutely go and text the word profit to 38470. That's profit 38470. You will get the book automatically downloaded to your phone, okay? Also, if you're interested in wholesale coaching, we're taking on a few students this quarter. You can go to coryscoaching.com, C-O-R-Y-S, coaching.com, and love to talk with you, see if we are a great fit, okay? You're going to dig this interview. Clayton is just one of the nicest guys. He's very knowledgeable. He's actually a tech guy as well. He ran one of the tech kind of episodes and segments there on Fox and Friends. And if you've known him there, you know how he's just very giving, very very transparent, and you're going to love his story. And it is quite powerful. So without any further ado, Mr. Clayton Morris.
Clayton, my man, are you there?
I am, Corey. Great to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on here. This is cool because one of our fellow mutual friends here, Tom Kroll, told me that I need to get you on here, and I'm excited to have you on, man.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. Tom's a great friend, and it's a small world when you know in the real estate world, and I love the folks that I've been friends with for a lot of years. So pleasure to meet you, my friend.
Pleasure to meet you too. You know, I feel like I kind of know you from being on TV. I've seen you on, what is it? Is it Fox and Friends?
Yeah, I was on Fox and Friends and the Fox News Channel for 10 years and 18 years in television, and I just recently retired. So
wow.
40 years old and done with TV, done with getting up at 4 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning to do morning television. It feels good sleeping in.
I bet it does. So, it's interesting because there's always a story to whenever someone gets involved with real estate investing, and I want to know a little bit about that story with you, because to make you kind of leave a job that would be pretty promising, what a lot of people would certainly want to trade places with you, even in that position, as a news anchor or being on that show, being in TV, it had to be something pretty big. So why don't we talk about what is your area right now that is your expertise in investing in real estate, and what made you want to get involved as a real estate investor?
Well, I'd gone through the ringer. I went through foreclosure. I went through deficiency judgment against me, even when I had arrived at Fox. And I was there, and I had invested in some speculative land stuff years ago and did some crazy stuff that came back to haunt me, which is why I never do that again. I don't do flips. I don't do speculative land stuff and projects and things like that. It's not in my wheelhouse. And a lot of people make great money doing it. That's not my wheelhouse. And I woke up one morning and came into Fox and went to go buy coffee downstairs in the commissary, and my debit card wouldn't work. And I said, that's odd. And here I am, with this on the number one show in the country, in the world,
right.
And morning television on cable,
sure.
in the number one network in the world. I'm starting to shake. I'm getting in the elevator, go up to my office, log into my bank, and all my bank accounts were in the negative. It was red. And they had frozen all of my bank accounts. And I couldn't even buy coffee. And I just took a deep breath and I said, you know what? Something's got to change in my life. And a short time after that, I didn't know what it was. It was honestly a blessing at the time, because now, in order to get into real estate investing later on the right way, I couldn't get loans. Right. I couldn't do it. I had to be creative. I had to learn how to do it creatively, with wholesaling, with other means, to learn and get started. And it was on a flight to New Zealand, actually. And it's it's one of those pivotal moments. I'm sure you've had one of these pivotal moments in your life too.
What caused you to go to New Zealand? That's
Well, my buddy is one of the greatest photographers in the world. His name is Trey Ratcliffe, and he runs a great website called stuckincustoms.com. And he's a great photographer. He moved to New Zealand, and he said, you got to come and spend a few days here, shoot some photos. We'll hang out. We'll go over the South Island. And I said, I can't pass this up. I need this right now in my life. Sure. I felt like down in the dumps. And so I went there for 5 days, and I'm on this flight, 16-hour flight, coming from San Francisco, stopped there on the way there. And after a 16-hour flight, where I got to talking to the couple that was next to me, and they were in their mid-50s. They weren't retired.
Sure.
And they said, how long are you going to be in New Zealand? And I said, I'm going to be there for 5 days. And I said, what about you guys? How long are you going to be there? And they said, we're going to be there for 2 months. And I said, how? What do you do that you can go to New Zealand for 2 months?
Just to hang out for 2 months.
Right. And he just looked at me and he said, oh, I'm a real estate investor.
Yes.
Boom. Right. And so it was like a lightning bolt shot through me. And I wish that I had talked to them 16 hours earlier, but now we're on descent. Right. So I'm like counting my time, and I get out a notepad. I'm like, okay, tell me everything. Where, how do you buy? Yeah. Like, where do you buy? What do you do? He's like, well, me and my partner, we buy mostly in the Midwest and all around. He's like, we buy in C-class neighborhoods. That's our bread and butter. We've been doing it for years. And while I'm here in New Zealand, I'll be creating passive income. It'll be coming in, and I don't have, that's my income. I don't have to be working. And I said, and I got back, I called my wife on FaceTime audio because that's all I could have access to when I got to New Zealand. And she's like, how was your flight? How was everything? Well, tell me about it. Is it beautiful? I was like, listen. When I get back, we are doing this. We are going to start investing in real estate. We're going to start to buy properties. And when I got back, sure enough, I bought my first 2 properties and never stopped.
Wow, man. What a story. That's killer. So who was one of your biggest influences in investing? Did you start seeing besides, those people that were on the plane, I get that, but did you have any kind of teachers outside of that? I know Tom has been one of your friends, but did you have anybody else in that space?
Well, I started, just listening to and trying to read as much as I can. And I knew that when I graduated college, I went back and reread Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I went back to the elements. And I grew up, with the Poor Dad philosophy. So I grew up with a lot of fears around money, and money doesn't grow on trees. We're not the Rockefellers, all that kind of stuff. Those memes stayed with me my whole life. And my wife didn't have that. She grew up in an environment where her grandparents had invested in real estate. And so she watched them spend her time with her grandkids living off of the warehouses that they owned in California. I didn't have that. And so I was just trying to swallow as much information as I could. I was studying everything and reading and listening to podcasts and learning from, I took Sean Terry's course way back when. I became friends with Tom Kroll, who became really my mentor for wholesaling and learning that whole strategy. And then really thinking like this flight was really my foundation. All the notes that I took on this New Zealand flight became the foundation of what I would buy and hold. 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 2-bedroom, 1 bath, $50,000, $60,000 homes, renovate them, place a great tenant, and let them cash flow for years. I have 5-year leases on some of my properties, and I've never looked back. And honestly, it was those moments that informed me. But it's easy, Corey, to get shiny object syndrome, because then you could have so much information. You could be like, oh, this guy's investing in mobile home parks. Then this guy's doing billboards.
Right.
This guy's doing that. A friend of mine, he just did a big deal with the University of Arizona doing billboards all over the campus. It's like, yeah, that's great.
Do billboards, right?
Yeah, we should all go do this, and I should start. No. Stay focused on what's gotten you where you've gone. Right. You take 2 steps forward, and you're already thinking about moving west instead of going north. It's a crazy move, and so don't do it. That's my biggest Achilles heel.
It is. It's easy to do, right? Because you're always wanting bigger, better, right? And sometimes that bigger doesn't really equate to what you think it does. Sometimes bigger is bigger confusion, bigger ways to get diverted and not achieve what you want to achieve, right? But it looks grand, it looks big, and I think all entrepreneurs can share the shiny object Achilles heel that you talk about there. Well, what is something that's working really well for you? Because obviously there was kind of that enough's enough moment. You kind of talked about that in the descent. I bet you're talking super fast, taking those notes. That's an awesome story. But what is something that's working really well for you right now, Clayton, that we call our Profit Master investing strategy?
Well, for me, it's the basics, getting down to the basics. And you have to first, I look at the be, do, and have. This is an old saying, but it's so true. And I've really been focusing on it again, because what I've noticed over the past few years is that so many people are concerned with the do, right? The middle piece of this.
Right.
And lottery winners are the have, right? They skip be and do, and they go right to the have, and they make $2 million, and guess what? They lose it next week because they're idiots, right? They're not ready for it. They haven't done the homework, and they haven't gotten right with their being first.
Right.
So what's been working for me over the past few years is focusing on the being, because if you're a good steward of money, money flows to you.
Yes.
If you're not, if you're anxious, if you're fearful, if you're doing things out of greed, out of fear, if you're trying to hurt other people, and you're trying to control abundance where you don't think that it can be enough for you. Like, Corey, you just did huge deals. Am I nervous about it? No, there's abundance in this universe. But I grew up with these real negative associations with money where I felt like I needed to hold on to it. So the first step is be. You've got to get right with your being, whether it's in prayer, meditation, spending that time getting right with yourself, really understanding your why. Like, why are you even doing this? Why are you trying to create passive income? Is it money? Because you want a Tesla? You want fancy TVs? Or is it because you want to spend more time with your children? Like, why are you doing it? Get right with the be. Then the do comes next, right? So most people, I'll get a lot of emails from people who are like, hey, Clayton, should I invest in, commercial? Should I buy mobile home parks? Should I do billboards? Should I invest in single families? What about this zip code? What about that? And I want to say, whoa. Let's go back a few steps here. Why are you doing this in the first place?
Right.
Because the do is simple. The do is, you pick one course of action. There's a lot of people that have had success.
Yes.
Like you do a commercial, you follow one course of action to completion.
Yes.
Get right with your be first, then focus on the do, and then you can have.
Yes.
And so that's been really working for me. It's taken me a lot of years to refine that, get to it, and see it. Yes. For so often I was chasing shiny objects. I'd try late night infomercial crap. Remember Don Lepre?
Oh, I do.
Remember,
and tragic what happened to Don. But yeah, absolutely. I do remember Don. Yeah, the little tiny little ads and right. I
classifieds,
sure.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so I remember that's the kind of stuff that me and my friend used to do growing up. We're like, this is how we're going to get rich. We're going to do Don Lepre's ads, right? We're going to put tiny classified ads in newspapers and sell little fuzzy bunnies or whatever. The do, but not getting right with the be has changed my life, really.
That's incredible. We talk about something with real estate investing, profits, which is mindset, mechanics, and money. The 3 M's, right? Which is actually very interesting that be, do, and have, because mindset is the most important thing. That's really your why, right? Mechanics are your do. Mechanics are the things that just happen. They're the 1, 2, 3 steps, right? They're They're the things that the processes that have to take place, but the money comes looking for you once those things are in place. The interesting thing is once you start looking at the money first, it tends to be that have, right? You just want something. You just want to go get it. And so that's one thing, but then you don't have a reason why. The lottery winner, to your point, tends to, there's many lottery winners, if you Google them, they lose it the next year, or they're in worse shape because before they won the lottery. And how can you be in worse shape if you won 20 or 30 million dollars? But it's because they don't have a why. They don't have the mindset to be able to do those things. And so to your point, I think it speaks directly to that.
Yeah, there was that guy in West Virginia that won the lottery twice, and he lost it twice. He left like a big bag of cash in his car outside of a strip club or something. I mean, like
just no mindset, right? Some people winning money, some people making more money is the worst thing for them. It's not the best thing, because if you have a kid in a candy shop, right? I mean, it's just going to go nuts, right? If there's no discipline is one of the key elements, self-discipline, one of the key elements to having a great mindset. You have to be able to condition yourself on, just because I can, to your point again, doesn't mean I should, right? And so being able to have those differences, I think speaks a lot to the mindset. Good things there, Clayton. What's a challenge that you went through in real estate investing? How did you get through it?
Well, when I first started, I didn't understand why I was doing it.
Sure.
And so I was just looking for flipping, I didn't understand more deeply the mechanics of what I was doing. And, there's a lot of different strategies in real estate, right? So flipping, buy and hold, you name it. There's any number of ways,
whatever, right?
Lease options. And I was trying to do everything in the beginning. And you don't know what you don't know. I got over leveraged. And I ended up buying with like 100% financing a couple properties in Florida. And that was when you could get 100% finaing, and I had a job.
Doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. And so I made a huge mistake. I sold 2 properties. I lived in a 1-bedroom condo on a golf course in Orlando. And next door to me, a woman had passed away. It was a 2-bedroom. She lived there for 30 years, smoke on the wall. She smoked this was my first sort of taste of off-market properties, because the family inherited it. They knew it needed a ton of work. I said, look, I live next door. I could work on it. And they asked for a certain number. We negotiated, and I bought it. 100% financing. Really, it was like 103% because we even rolled in closing costs into the whole mix, Right. And I worked on
bring any money to the table, and now you've got an asset, and you have specialized knowledge. So there's probably some thought of, wow, I could do something with this.
Yeah, and I didn't even know what the after repair value would be. I didn't know. I just thought, okay, if I got this thing,
nothing with the why, just the have.
Right. I mean, it was just like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know the numbers. I didn't get too caught up in those details. But hey, actually I ended up selling both of them and made a decent profit. But then the thing is, I took that money, got greedy, and a friend of mine said, hey, there's a new Phil Mickelson golf course community being built in North Carolina. We can do construction loans, buy this property, this like log cabin in the woods, and then we'll sell it to an A-class, person buying it for $400. We'll be in it for $260. You only have to put $30,000 down. And then the market just collapsed. So I lost everything, and Phil Mickelson backed out, the builders backed out, and I'm left on the hook with a construction loan. And I just went through this whole thing. My wife and I, we started a year on our podcast, the Investing in Real Estate podcast. She's like, all right, we're going to get real. She said, I want you to go through all of your pain and tell everyone about your terrible. And it was like a therapy session for an hour. I was sitting there like in tears at the end of it. I'm like, oh my God. I didn't realize some of the crap that I had done in the beginning. So those are some mistakes.
Yeah. Thank God you got a chance to go through it and you made it out, alive. And some of those lessons that you learn by going through some of those things, even though there's some of the most painful things in your life, right? In my own life, one of the big things was cancer. I had thyroid cancer, and that radically changed my life, Clayton. It completely changed my perspective on being grateful and every day being a gift and every moment thinking about that as a cherished moment and there's just all these different values that changed because when your mortality's actually threatened, you actually see things obviously a little bit different. You shouldn't have to get to that point, right? You should not have to, but for entrepreneurs, we tend to be very driven. And, I know our good friend, Tom, I have these, I joke with him. I had a rhino before you, Tom, but, we're rhinos, you put your head down and you roll and you just go, and you're going to get hit, and you don't kind of think about getting hit too much. And then you look up and you're like, okay, did I get to my destination, or how far did I get off? And, so you can still make things work, right? But it's not necessarily the wisest way to do it. That's one of the good questions. What's one of the lessons that you've really learned to get to where you are today?
Well, my wife and I had a real heart-to-heart about this a few years ago. And as I was starting in real estate investing, I had a couple of properties that were cash flowing. They were consistently cash flowing. As we were building our company, we were buying single families, and it's slow and boring. And I needed exciting, I guess, right? I always needed the next thing. Right. Variety, right? The entrepreneurship. I wanted to try this. In fact, I was like designing the perfect zip-up sweater at one point. I mean, this is the kind of crap that I used to do, right? And I said to my wife at one point, I was trying some new random strategy, and my wife, we were in California. We were with her parents, and with the kids, we were on a date night, and we were heading to Napa for 2 nights. And she said, and I said, well, yeah, this thing might work. Let me try this. And she just pulled the car over, and she said, I've had enough.
This is the next thing. The zip-up sweater is gonna be it, baby.
Come on. It's going to fit fantastic. It fits. It's amazing. I literally had like drawings from a designer. I was going to have it produced, and I had samples sent to me, and I was like, what am I doing? That's not like a little hobby. You'd have to create a full-on full-on business.
That's a business, right? Yeah.
My friend who runs Scotty Vest, his name's Scott Jordan. He creates vests that have all kinds of pockets for gadgets and stuff. And he said, Clayton, this isn't like a hobby. Like, this is like an 80-hour-a-week thing. Like, you're going to be traveling to factories. If you're going to try to do it in America, good luck to you. You got to probably go to China. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to source zippers. You're going to have to. This is not a hobby. And I said, okay. But my wife said, I've had enough. She said, she said, what are you chasing? And it was like that. Those words changed my life. It was like the lightning bolt moment for me.
Wow.
What are you chasing? What are you afraid of? No. And I broke down in tears.
That's the hard part. You didn't have an answer.
I broke down in tears.
Yeah.
I just sat in silence. We drove for like another hour to get to where we were going. And then we sat down at dinner, and it felt like an enormous sort of weight had just been like lifted off my shoulders, and she said, if you look around you, you have everything you need right now.
Right.
And I was still working, I was still employed, but I had started to build up passive income. She said, why don't you continue doing what you're already doing that's working? What are you chasing for? What are you running from? Are you and I guess I was fearful of sort of maybe winding up like my dad, always wanting to be the rich dad, but he always saw wealth building as getting a raise from his employer, and he never was able to achieve. He's 83 now, and he still has all those aspirational books on his shelf, and he'll go out and buy the new business book that comes. He's 83. I grew up in a great little, middle class. We were never wanting for anything. We weren't rich, but he always felt like sort of a failure in that way, that he could never become wealthy and create true
business owner. He was just working for somebody, so they're not really
always
a business owner, right? Yeah.
So I think I grew up watching him when I was 12 years old. He lost his job, and that's just stuck with me. He was terrified in the kitchen, pacing back and forth with my mom, and that stuck with me, that he felt so beholden to this paycheck job from this employer that now had shattered his life. I remember crying to my best friend at the time. I was like, I think we're going to have to move. We're going to have to sell the house. My dad lost his job. None of that happened, but it was that fear that I grew up with. So that what are you chasing changed my life. And now I'm just focused on that one thing, the same buy and hold properties, the same thing that's gotten me here, that enabled me to retire from television when all my co-anchors were like, what are you doing? And now I'm over the holidays, 3 weeks, just hanging out with my kids, skiing and sleeping in. And I'm watching them have to work on Christmas Day at 4 a.m. And, talk about Trump and who knows what. I mean, God, I'm just so thankful. I have such gratitude now, you know?
Jim Jong Lee and I mean, wow. I think that just resonated with a lot of folks. Probably more than you may even realize. I mean, thanks for being transparent with that, because I think that's probably a rhetorical question. And I think that having the answer to that really provides a lot of clarity and awareness, and like you said, does lift a weight off your shoulders, because it's very easy to create variety as the number one thing,
right?
That's on your list. Even if something is successful, it's almost like, oh, I've accomplished that. I bought a house, I sold a house, I made money on this, I wholesaled the deal, I did this, I've done that. What's next? And the biggest challenge is what your wife said to you, which is, why not double down and go deeper instead of wider? And I think whenever we ask that question, when we start getting too shiny object and too variety driven, that's probably a good way. We go wide instead of deeper. If you had to do it all over again, what is something that you would change? Just something that's that you might be able to give a little pointer to somebody listening if you had to start all over again. What's something that you'd start out with, or something that you would change?
Well, one thing, I mean, I've always taken action, sometimes at my detriment. So jump before thinking about it sometimes.
Build a parachute on the way down.
Yeah. And quite, it's like shoot and aim later, right? But I have to say that I think it served me well.
Sure.
However, there was a lot of mistakes along the way that I followed sort of the get rich quick scheme, right? Someone would send me an email with like, you can create your own website tonight, and we're going to handle all of the drop shipping of product and, all of this stuff. There was a website called Big Planet back in the day. It was almost like an Amway of setting up of websites. Yeah. Sure. $2,500. Before I knew it, I was $75,000 in debt on my credit cards, making $23,000.
Right.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was probably still paying for like a Chinese food dinner, 5 years later on my credit card, when I was a lowly news reporter in Helena, Montana, making $23,000 a year. And so, not believing in abundance, a book that I'm sure you've read, that I know Tom and I are huge fans of, The 4 Spiritual Laws of Prosperity. And it's a really amazing book to read if you haven't read it. I'm sure you've talked about it on your show. But one of the 4 spiritual laws, as you read this book, will make you the most uncomfortable. And that's what was the most remarkable thing about this book. One of them is tithing. Now, not tithing necessarily like in the church sense. Although that's where the word comes from. But to give to those people in your life who bring you spiritual nourishment. And so if you've only got $1, her argument in the book is give away 10 cents. And it's so hard because when you don't have that money, you want to hold on to it.
Yes.
And even when you're the poorest, she makes the argument, that's when abundance can come into your life, when you start to realize you cannot hold on to money. And so I guess my biggest mistake was in attempting to hold on to money. Yes. Instead, now I realize that it flows through me, and we donate to charity. It just flows through us. It's like a pipe in this house. It just flows in and flows out. And I don't hold on to it, and I don't even think about it anymore. And that's probably my biggest lesson.
I love that. I love that, man. And I think I totally agree with you on that. I think that not only that book has been very powerful, another book that's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success is very, very good as well. And this idea of attachment in terms of these physical things that we tend to attach ourselves with, we tend to think that once we get them, we're going to have freedom. And the reality is often once we get them, or on the chase of pursuit of them, we become a slave to that thing. And we give up a lot of our own freedoms on that journey. And often these things that we give up are very dear and precious to us. And the crazy thing is we convince ourselves that it's all worth it. We convince ourselves that one day I'll do this now, and 10 years from now we'll never have to work again. And I'm doing it for us. I'm doing it for our family. In the meantime, like my good friend Sean McCloskey that wrote Life and Air would say, How old's your kid now? Oh, 4. Okay. So how often do you think your kid wants to hang out with you when you're 14? I mean, so you miss these years of these moments and these things that you cannot get back. The most valuable thing that you have is energy, but really inside of that is time. And what are you spending your energy and time doing? So I love what you had to say there.
Well, thank you. And one thing I heard recently, it stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it over the past 24, 48 hours, quite a bit actually, is this idea that, hey, we're not going to go on vacation this year. We're just going to stay home, on spring break. Our kid's 8 years old, 9 years old. Not me. I'm just saying hypothetically.
Sure.
And someone's saying to you, really, you're just going to do a staycation, not do anything special? Guess what? You only have 10 of these left. Meaning, when that kid is 18, he's not going to want to go on vacation with you. He's going to want to hang out with his friends, his girlfriend. He's not going on vacation with you. You've only got 10 of these left. And when you start to think about that, you think, how many more times do I get to go on a Disney cruise with my kids, or go to wherever, with my kids? Right. And you're being lazy about it, or you're focused on work, you're focused on money, and you're not focused on what's really important. Guess what's going to happen? It's going to be gone before you know it.
You're going to look up. And you're going to wake up, dude. It's 2018 on this interview right now.
Right.
And I mean, even now, it was funny, you ever have like some mags, like Fast Company magazine, and you get that one, you're going to read it, and you put it aside for a second. And then you come and look at your bookshelf, and you pick up the Fast Company magazine. It was January of 2017. You know, and you're like, I was gonna read it. Where did 12 months go by?
Right.
Well, it's because you filled it with life. You filled it with everything else that comes up in front of the thing that's not in front of you immediately, right?
Right.
So being intentional, I think, has a lot to do with what you're talking about. Being intentional, planning on these things that are important to you. What's a book that's really changed your life? I know you talked about the 4 spiritual laws of success. Do you have another one that really rocked your world?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of 2017, a book that I just finished reading is called Awareness by Anthony DeMello. And he wrote it, it's actually from the 1970s, but really talks about that spirituality really means waking up, awareness, that most people are asleep their whole lives. They are born asleep, they live asleep, they marry in their sleep, they breed children in their sleep, and they die in their sleep without ever waking up. They never understand the loveliness and sort of the beauty of this thing that we call like the human existence. Mystics truly understand this, right? It doesn't matter what theology. I don't care, Christian, non-Christian, Catholic, that no matter what their theology, no matter what their religion, they're all unanimous on one thing, that all is always well. It's always fine. Always. There's no pain. There's no fear. It's all fake. It's all us being fearful of something that doesn't actually exist. It's a strange paradox, to be sure. But he says, tragically, most people never get to see that all is well because they're asleep their whole life and they are having a nightmare that they live in permanently.
Wow. A lot went into that right there. It's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I love that book, and I would recommend it's a short read, but I think it would totally change your life if you get a chance to read it.
I wrote that down. We'll put this in the show notes as well. Do you have some mobile apps that you use on a daily basis? Clayton, are you more of a techie guy or not?
Well, I'm a big fan of Things on my iPhone, so it's in the dock of my iPhone down below because I use it constantly to keep track of my projects, what's coming up today. Sure. I used to use a lot of different apps like OmniFocus and Todoist, but I found
Todoist. I love Todoist.
Is great. But you know what? I was a slave to these lists and projects and so forth with following the GTD methodology and getting things done, the David Allen method, and you can become a slave to these lists. So I found with Things, I'm not as much of a slave. I have my sort of journal that I keep, my full focus planner, and I work on that. What are my big things that I'm working on? And then those little to-dos that kind of float down the bottom, they're not as important to me as anymore. But I love that. And I use HoloSync is my meditation app. The HoloSync method, Bill Harris, who founded the HoloSync or Centerpoint Research like 30 years ago, the way that you put on a headset, and for 30 minutes, I do this at 5 a.m. I'll sit down and do that for 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. So I use the HoloSync app. They really need to update it. I'm going to write to them because it only works in landscape mode. And it's like, come on, guys, this is 2018. We got the iPhone 10 now.
Need the VR coming on.
Right. So those are like my two, and I use Overcast for podcasts. To me, there's no better podcast player than Overcast. So I use that for my podcast player on my iPhone. But those are like my three that I think I launch more than anything else.
So Overcast, is it the same as Cast, CASTS, or is it?
No, it's built by my friend Marco Arment, who was one of the creators of Tumblr. He then created Instapaper, which was the first way to sort of save articles offline so you could read them. And then he created Overcast. He's a really smart developer and a brilliant guy. And so it's a really great podcast player. So Overcast, it's got an orange logo. I love it.
I have seen that. I don't think I played around with Breaker, which I kind of think is cool because of the community focus on it. You can actually see if all the podcasts that you're listening to, I can go in and see as a community of things that you recommend. But I really like Cast a lot because of the browser. It syncs. I don't know if Overcast does it, but it syncs on the browser, so I can go in. I can sync up my podcast, but I can also speed them up, which is what I like to do. I like to listen to them really, really fast, and so that's interesting. I'll have to check out Overcast. I have seen, and I think I even downloaded. I just haven't played around with it yet, but I need to play around with that one.
Yeah. Overcast definitely has multiple speed variations. They also have a thing called Smart Silence. So when there's big chunks of silence, it basically eliminates the silences and speeds it up. And also you can go double speed, the whole thing. So he's a big audiophile, is Marco, who created it.
I like that. That's cool. The guy that created it too. So, do you have a favorite business quote?
That's a great question. I have been thinking about this for a while. I'm a huge fan of my favorite president, Theodore Roosevelt. Read all the Edmund Morris books on him, and I was a history major in college.
Wow.
And to me, it's not necessarily a business quote as it is really a life quote and an action quote. And his quote about being in the arena, that he doesn't want to talk to you unless you are willing to get in the arena, get in there, get bloody like a boxing ring. If you're not in the arena and you don't have dust on you, then you are not sufficiently able to talk to me about what's going on, right? Like if you've never been a real estate investor and you're telling me that I can't make money off of the types of ways that I invest, and you're just on the sidelines and you not getting in the arena, I don't want to talk to you. I only want to talk to people who have taken action, and actually put a little skin in the game. So yes. I'm a big fan of Theodore Roosevelt and his "in the arena" quote.
That's great. Do you get 8 hours of sleep at night, Clayton?
I try to. I've been trying. One of my big New Year's resolutions is to be in bed, after the kids get in bed. We put them down at 7:30, 7:45, and it's like, okay, we got to shut down by 9 p.m. So I use my Apple Watch. I have an app on here called Sleep Watch, and it tracks my sleep every night. And it'll send me an alert after I wake up about an hour later, and it'll say, here's what we detected last night. Is this accurate? And I'm like, yes, it is. Great. You got 7 hours and 40 minutes, or you got 8 hours and 5 minutes. And so I really try to, because it's probably that and meditation, the two most important things you can do for your health, right?
Very, very important. Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about your morning routine. Do you have one?
I do. 5 a.m., wake up, 30-minute meditation. The next 30 minutes I spend going over my goals and I'm a big fan of Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. Actually got my boy Tom one for Christmas as well, so we've been going through it together. And it's great. It's done by quarter, so it's broken. You buy a new one each quarter. Smart business, by the way, but it's really detailed. And so I go over those goals and I journal and talk about what I'm grateful for. And so I journal a little bit in the morning. I look at my goals for the day. And then I kickstart my morning. The kids wake up around 6:15. I try to help my wife. We make breakfast, make coffee, get the kids out the door, clean up the kitchen, and take them to school. That's my morning routine.
What are you most grateful for?
I'm grateful for the space that I've been able to create in my life in the past year, which that space, though, has given me more time for the things that matter. It's very easy to say I want to create more space in my life with passive income, but then I just did a podcast episode on this exact topic about, forget passive income and real estate. If you're getting fat and you're going to die in 5 years because you're drinking every night, you're eating sugar, you're not getting enough sleep, and you're sitting on your phone in front of your kids, like, what are you doing it for? Right. So I'm grateful for the space, but I'm also grateful for that the space has allowed me to connect more deeply with my family in the meaningful ways that's what it's all about. Because without that, what are we doing this for?
Right. There's a lot that goes into that because we get so involved in the doing that we stop thinking about the being, right? And who are we? And who do we want to become? And often, the pursuit of things that we don't want, we often are on that track of doing those very same things because we don't look at them as a negative while we're doing them. We look at them as just something that we're being a part of on that side of that journey. But again, this goes back to being intentional and being on that doing side of things. Like you said, if you're overweight, you don't like that. It's causing issues, causing lack of energy in your life and your family and your relationships. But yet you still want to make passive income, and that's just the thing that's driving you. Well, maybe you need to reconsider your priorities. Because you're not going to really care too much about making an extra $200 a door whenever you're in the hospital and you can't get out of bed, right?
Right.
So definitely prioritizing those things and getting intentional is hugely important. Have you had a mentor besides those folks that were on the plane on the descent? Tom, I know you said Sean Terry, one of my business partners, good friend. Have you had anybody else that's been a mentor in your life? If you have, how important has that person been to your life? And when would you recommend to someone else that you get one?
I would say it's one of the most important things you can find. I mean, in my television career, I've talked about Tom here and for the real estate world, I talked about, books being a great, an important asset. Yes. But, in the TV journey as well, I mean, it doesn't matter where you are. You've got to admit that you don't know everything. And so when people go to real estate meetings, they go there and they're like, yeah, I'm going to go to my first meetup, in the real estate world. And they go down there, they put on the name badge, and then they either do one of three things, right? They either stand in the corner and don't talk to anybody because they're nervous. 2, they go and they pretend that they're something they're not. They put on airs and they act like that they're already a big real estate investor. Well, how are you ever going to find help and guidance from someone who wants to ruffle their, walk around like a peacock, pretending that there's something they're not? Who is going to want to help you? Right. It'd be much better if you went up to say, hey, I don't know anything. I'm just getting started. Can you fill my cup with info? I don't know anything, Or third, that they actually do talk to people and they write down a lot of business card names and they follow up and maybe go out to lunch with somebody and have coffee with somebody. And that's how you build relationships. That's how you find a mentor. That's how you do it.
Sure. Absolutely. That's great. And I couldn't agree with you more. It has a lot to do with your quote on the Roosevelt, right? Which is, being in the ring, and getting dusty. And, a mentor, someone that you want to, if you want to go to a certain place, then get a mentor that's either been there, that's been there and done that and can guide you, or find somebody that is going to be an accountability partner with you that as you're learning, you guys can both kind of capitalize on the learning together. You can do more whenever you have somebody in your life that believes in what a big word I always talk about is called efficacy, which is, what someone sees in you that you don't even see in yourself. That's what a mentor can do. A mentor can pull out of you things that you don't even are aware of in your own life. And once they are able to see those things of greatness, they've already been there. They were always there. You just probably didn't get a chance to see them or you didn't capitalize on them. And then somebody believing in you, a mentor that believes in you, can actually create this massive momentum of new success and awareness in your own life, because when someone believes in you, you feel like you can almost accomplish anything, right?
Right. I mean, it's that fire that you need, because honestly, I believe, and I've said this before, that it's the small little things that keep people from success. It's not the big things. Like, I'm going to go out and become a real estate investor. That's a big goal, right? It's the little speed bumps.
Right.
It's the tiny little speed bumps along the way. Like, oh, I don't know where to find a purchase agreement.
Right.
I don't know. You know what? I'm just not going to do this. When
Right.
it's the little speed bumps that
true,
a mentor
right.
can say, don't
I'm
worry
out.
about it. Here you go. I'm going to email you one this afternoon.
Right.
Like, it's those little things that keep you going, and to have a mentor to get you through the little things. The
Right.
big things can often, you wouldn't be reaching out to a mentor if you didn't already know that you needed one. You're already straight with getting that big moment, that big momentum.
If you had to summarize it, Clayton, why do you do what you do? What gets you up out of bed in the morning?
It is now, I mean, I've really come around long to this, but it is service. I really believe that I was put on this earth to educate, to be a teacher, to help other people. Been given the gift of gab in my career as a broadcaster. So I'm not a great writer. I'm a good speaker. I've been on television for 18 years. I created enough passive income in my life to leave my job. I help other people do it. And so it is about service. My wife and I said in 2018, our goal is service. How can we be of better service to people? How can we help people? And we were out to dinner with a couple of friends about a month and a half ago, one of the top brain surgeons on the East Coast. If I had an aneurysm, I had a stroke, this would be the guy that I would go to, number one. And go to New York City. I mean, he's fabulous, and I'm not just blowing smoke. His wife, one of the top oncologists in the country, went out to dinner, and they didn't know anything about a 1031 exchange. They own a $2 million property in Phoenix that's being rented out. They don't even have it in a business entity. They were thinking of selling it. They hadn't converted it to an LLC. I mean, all of these things. And here's a brain surgeon. And he's like, well, we need to go out to dinner more often.
The smartest of the smartest, and yet they don't have the specialized knowledge that you have from doing real estate investing.
So forget brain surgeons. Think about the way in which we're educated in school and growing up. All we learn is how to balance a checkbook. And so if I can, through YouTube, my YouTube channel, my podcast, help move the needle for someone in some small capacity to take action wherever they are across the country, I don't care, or around the world. I got an email from the Netherlands yesterday. So I don't care. I want to help as many people as I can in 2018. So that word would be service.
One thing I whenever I went through that whole cancer bout, there's this, I don't know if you see it, says, remember, be a servant. And, it's one of the things that really changed my trajectory of life, was understanding that we're surrounded by servants, and depending on how you believe with your different, whether it's a religion or your faith or whatever, but we're surrounded by servants. And at the end of the day, there is something to be said about helping somebody else and giving a hand up, and just giving a hand out, and helping people and serving them, and really serving them for their best interest over your own. See, the challenge for people often on service is they want something from it. But I challenge you that whenever you serve someone, also think about, just for the fact that you're helping them, help someone, and often you may not get a ROI on that moment. It may take a long period of time, or guess what? It may not happen at all. But if you look at every time you're serving someone as building up this kind of bank account of well-being and helping someone in service, and this reciprocity kind of idea, which really speaks more of this in the books we talked about, 4 laws of spiritual success, and the 7 spiritual laws of success. But there is this idea of reciprocity, and it is something that works. It just works. And whenever you help and serve others, it will come back. And just understand that being in that mindset of serving others will also create a humbleness that people want to work with someone that isn't prideful, that isn't a jerk, that doesn't have this, this ego that walks around next to them, but someone that's approachable. And man, I'm telling you, that's the type of folks that achieve great things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're out to try to to give and not expect anything in return, how great would that be? That's really what we should try to all focus on doing.
Yes. Well, Clayton, this has been great. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you have a meeting you got to run to. What's the best way that our folks can get in touch with you? The best way to contact you?
Well, honestly, I'm pretty accessible. If you like podcasts, I'm sure you listen to Corey here. I've got a podcast that I do with my wife on a regular basis where we talk about family wealth building with real estate and all of the things that we do with taxes and, how we structure everything with our LLCs and all the ins and outs of that, how we build wealth, which is just called the Investing in it's a really boring name, but it's the Investing in Real Estate podcast with Clayton Morris. So it's really boring, but hey, maybe you'll remember it. So that's the best way. Reach out to me that way. And I'm always happy to write people back and communicate and help in any way that I can.
I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on here. You've been very transparent on some of the things that we discussed, and I know that's really resonated with folks. So Clayton, appreciate you.
Much love to you, my friend. Thank you so much, Corey. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, make sure you stay tuned for our next Real Estate Investing Profit Masters podcast. And we're going to bring on some incredible guests just like Clayton. So thank you again. And remember, be a servant just like Clayton here. Thanks, buddy. Hi, this is Corey Boatwright, and I have a quick question for you. What is the fastest way to reach your goals? Is it to work harder, work smarter, use system and processes, or hire rock star employees? What about just making more money? Actually, it's none of that. Those things are a byproduct of the one success component that every real estate investor or business owner that I know all have in common. And the answer is clarity. Complete laser focus on what you want, why you want it, and what are you willing to do to get it. So where do you find clarity? By hiring a coach and mentor. Now, could you reach the level of success that you want to achieve by doing this all on your own? The Lone Ranger. Well, maybe, but do you think it would take you double or even triple the time to achieve it compared to hiring a coach and mentor to help guide your path, provide proven instruction with a tailored blueprint that you could follow for building a real estate business that supports your lifestyle and helps you reach your financial and personal goals? Absolutely. Here's the fact. Time isn't recyclable. So I would like to ask you to make good use of it and extend a personal invitation for you to book a phone coaching strategy session by going to callwithcorey.com. That's callwithcorey, Corey spelled CORY.com. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions on that page, and we're going to go over and see how we can make sure that your business is on path to reach the goals that you want this year. So go to callwithcorey.com, that's CORY, and book your phone coaching strategy session today. Remember, be a servant, and I'll see you on there.
You've been listening to another Real Estate Investing Profits Master Podcast series. To receive your free real estate book, Down and Dirty, Ultimate Real Estate Investing Quick Start Guide, how to quit your job to start flipping houses in 90 days or less, head online and go to realestateinvestingprofits.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Real Estate Investing Profits. Thanks again for listening, and stay tuned for our next episode.